What's up, guys? I'm Mike from StockedUp, and welcome back to the Stocks with Mike and Tom show. We have some awesome information for everyone in today's video. We're going to be talking about what Powell said today, the updates on a possible stimulus deal, and basically what we're watching in the market right now. The market is in a very interesting situation as it's very close to all-time highs. We might get a stimulus deal, and then we're going to be dissecting Powell's speech too. At the end of this video, we have a pretty big option we are watching. Someone put about $12.2 million in this option, and it has a pretty interesting setup. So make sure you guys stick around to the end of the video for that option and all of the plays that we are watching for the rest of this week. If you aren't subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe. Tom and I post brand new videos every single day. But with that being said, Tom, let's get right into today's video.
Yeah, the Fed actually raised its economic outlook slightly and sees 4.2% growth over the next year and 5% unemployment rate. So that's actually not too bad. And then the Federal Reserve expects real gross domestic product to fall just 2.4% in 2020 compared to a decline of 3.7% in just December alone. So that's good. That's good to hear that number is going to come back for us. And then the Fed also upped its 2021 real GDP forecast of 4.2% from 4%, like I said in the beginning. And they also said that they would buy bonds until unemployment comes back down. So all this is going on as Congress is getting close to passing a new bill here. So this could really be a big week for news. Obviously, this is great news from the Fed, and it did send the markets up slightly throughout the day. But the thing is that at the end of the day, it all comes down to what happens, and there was some other bad news that ended up coming out of New York today. So it just depends, what news is hitting at that time. But it seems like that the economic news is pretty good, but the news about the illness is getting pretty bad.
Yeah, so like you said, basically Powell went live today, and he said, like he didn't say any great news, but a couple months ago the Feds were predicting, like for example, we could see that in September, like you said, the Feds were expecting the real gross domestic product to fall 3.7%, but now they take that back and say, oh, they're only predicting it to fall just 2.4%. So they're basically just like not giving good predictions necessarily, but they're just making adjustments to their predictions from a couple months ago. So it's not amazing news. It's not horrible news. And like you said, they are still going to be buying bonds, which is a good sign. But overall, with Powell, it didn't really move the markets too much today. It wasn't amazing news, wasn't horrible news. But Tom, what's that bad news out of New York?
Yeah, this is actually very interesting news, and it's actually kind of scaring me because obviously, if cities start shutting down and stuff again, it's going to really hurt the economy. But CNBC reports that New York Governor Cuomo warns a January economic shutdown is possible as COVID cases soar to springtime records. So if we really see these numbers keep rising and we do see New York shut down, I think a lot of at least some of the other bigger cities, I think would follow in their footsteps and end up shutting down as well. So I just think it would just be a snowball effect for a lot of these cities to go ahead and start shutting down. And obviously that's not good for the economy. And while the Fed is seeing, decent numbers right now, it just sucks to hear that we still have, the stuff going on with like shutting down the economy and restaurants and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because if we could go to a daily chart of, let's say, the S&P 500 or like the SPY, something like that, we could see we are very close to all-time highs. And I'm a little weary of the market right now because we don't have any amazing news right now, and there's still some turbulence with getting a stimulus deal. But overall, just everything going on in the market right now, I'm not feeling too hot. And especially with that news from Cuomo, that's also not good news. So, and then the COVID cases are rising. It's not a good setup in my opinion. I'm pretty weary with the market right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a pullback sometime within the next couple of weeks. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I could see one too. Hopefully 3714 composes a pretty good high for the S&P. And just with all this news coming out and especially with the shutdowns and stuff, I really don't see the market like like really flying upwards or anything. If the Fed would have put out better numbers than what they did, like you said, they only changed it from 3.7% now to 2.4%. It's not like they're actually, going in the other direction or anything, or so they're still
Right.
looking at they're actually still looking at loss instead of growth. So it's not going to be too good of a situation still. And I just don't see any good news coming out that's going to make the markets fly and hit new highs right now, except for possibly some vaccine news. But we'll just have to see how that goes, because there's been problems with vaccine shipments now and all that stuff. So that could even end up affecting the markets.
That's a great point. But now let's get right into our Discord member of the day. Today's member of the day is Michelle F. So huge shout out to Michelle. She's always supporting us, always giving us great feedback, great information, and commenting on the videos. We really appreciate it. And she's also a very useful and positive member of the Discord community. So huge shout out to Michelle F. But now let's get right into our momentum plays for tomorrow. And the first one is DraftKings, which had an amazing day today. DraftKings is actually popping pretty nicely. So, Tom, what levels should we be watching?
Yeah, make them break above 54.35, and wow, they have really been going up.
Oh, yeah, they look pretty good. With the next one, we have Microsoft, which also had an amazing day today.
Yep, Microsoft, make them go ahead and pass above 220.15.
All right, and then we have Square, which actually broke all-time highs today.
Wow, yeah. Watch for them to break above 228.
All right, and then we have Walgreens, which is WBA, but this one is to the downside.
Yeah, I'd actually make them fall below the $40.20 level.
All right, so we are eyeing DraftKings, Microsoft, and Square possibly to the upside, only if they can break above the levels Tom listed. And we are eyeing WBA potentially to the downside for a day trade, only if it can break below the level Tom listed. But it is now time to get into the $12.2 million options trade for tomorrow. And we are looking at Baidu 200 call options that expire this Friday, December 18th. Now, Baidu had just a crazy run up in the past couple weeks. They went from about, 136 all the way up to highs of 201. This stock is exploding, but looking at this stock, I am pretty confident that the smart money is shorting these calls. They're $10 out of the money, they're weekly, and Baidu already just flat out exploded. It really looks like they are shorting these call options. I'm like pretty confident they're shorting them. They're just too far out of the money, and it really looks like Baidu will pull back. And even if Baidu continues to go up, their break-even price is going to be right around a little over $200. So, do you have any input on this, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I like how it's bouncing off the 186 support. And I think that if it breaks below that, we could see some big falls back to the downside, especially with how much they've been running. Whenever stocks run like this, I feel like a broken record. Like I say this every day, but man, whenever they start running up like this, I start really looking for pullbacks, because it's just bound to happen eventually. It's just the way the market works, and Baidu will pull back eventually. So whenever it does, I'll definitely have my eyes on it.
For sure. All right, well, let's get right into our questions from the previous episode. With the first question, we have Melina saying, always great content. Can you speak about Airbnb? What are your thoughts on starting a position? So, Airbnb, so they IPO'd a lot higher than everyone initially anticipated. Tom and I like it for the long term, and we actually made a video on this before it IPO'd, and at that time, the stock was set to IPO, I believe, around $45 to $50, and right now they're sitting at 138. So obviously it'd be better to get a lower price, but if you really like Airbnb for the long term, it's really never a wrong time to buy, like especially if you dollar cost average. IPOs are extremely volatile, and it's very hard to predict any movement with a stock that's only been trading for 5 days. So if you like the stock for the long term, it really doesn't hurt to just buy a little bit. So for example, let's say you want to put $2,000 in this stock. Maybe you could just buy like one share every month and just slowly buy over time, so you can get just like a nice average price. So personally, that's what I would do. With the next question, we have Head saying, what do you think DIS and Roku are going to do for this week? So let's take a look at Disney. They're kind of consolidating. Tom, what are you seeing with this one?
Yeah, they're consolidating along these supports that I have right here around $174. So you can see that it's been hitting this level a few times over the past few days. I'm really going to be looking at 174 as a like middle ground, 180 as almost like the high resistance, and then another lower support at around 168. So I'm going to be waiting for it to either break above 180 and go to the upside, or break below 168 and go to the downside. And then if I wanted to make some quick day trades, I could just trade this center line and just trade all the bounces it has off of that. So that's what I'm going to be looking at over the next couple of weeks, is if it can really break out of this range or not.
Gotcha. And then the other stock he was talking about, which was Roku, this thing is exploding right now, Tom. In after hours, it actually just broke all-time highs. So this looks pretty bullish. What are you seeing?
Yeah, all the way up to 339 in after hours. I did not expect to see this go that high. Oh my gosh, 336. They're all-time highs like you said. I did not expect them to keep going up like this. It's just one of those stocks it just does not stop running right now, and they do a lot of good stuff with televisions and streaming services and different things like that. So there's a lot of good stuff going on for Roku. And I really, I'm not sure that I'd be picking up shares right here for the long term, just given how high it is. But man, they are a true runner, and it's just I cannot believe that they're not stopping. Most of these stocks have stopped eventually, but Roku just keeps going.
Oh yeah, they're popping. With the next one we have Kevin saying, "Hey, could you guys go over Boeing in the next episode?" So looking at Boeing, they're not having the best week right now. But for the long term, I'm not sure what time frame you're looking at, Kevin. But for the long term, I like Boeing. If you're looking at the short term, I'll leave this one to Tom.
Yeah, in the short term, it does look like they're actually starting to slightly fall back to the downside. Just be careful, because you can see how it also fell to the downside right here at the beginning of December and the end of November. And you can see how it's almost a very similar setup of how, like, right where Boeing is right now. So just watch for a possible pop back to the upside, but just visually looking, it looks like that they're going to fall, and then they're trading below like the 234 support.
Gotcha. And then with the last question, we have Jason saying, "Keep up the good work, guys. I sold Apple calls today and made 46%. I'm thinking about getting more. What do you think?" So, great question. Apple looks pretty good on a daily chart, and we all know that they're a powerhouse. The main risk I see right now with Apple is like Apple has a good setup, right? But if some bad news comes out with the stimulus deal or with COVID cases or something like that, that can ruin the entire setup. So Apple looks good. You just have to be careful if bad news comes out. That can ruin the entire setup. So just really be careful for overall market movement. All right. So Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or any insight for the market for tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be looking at Intel, which is in a pretty decent setup right now. I actually like how it's bouncing off the 100 SMA and starting to come back up, and we might retest these highs of the past few weeks around 52.50. I think that would be a pretty good level to see if we could hit that again, especially over the next couple of days. And it's also moving off of a long-term trend line that I have. So if we go to an intraday chart, you can see how the stock is actually, this trend line at the top, this red trend line, that was the main trend line on this daily chart here. So you can see how that trend line extends all the way back to like the lows of March. And if we go to an intraday setup, it is actually hitting off of that, and the stock is bouncing off that trend line, and Intel's going to the upside. So it looks like that they even broke the high of a few days ago. Just at the end of the day today. So if they can pop tomorrow above 51.50, I think it'll be an awesome trade. And I just really like the setup right now. Just be careful of a pullback, but I think the setup's pretty good.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys want to trade the same options as Tom and I, plus access to the machine learning bot and access to the options order flow bot, don't forget to click the Stocked Up options alerts link in the description down below. Comments really help grow our channel, so Tom and I are extremely grateful for everyone who leaves a comment down below. It really helps us, and we really appreciate it. We read all of the comments, so thank you guys so much for all the comments, the likes, and new subscribers. We really appreciate it. With that being said, if you have any questions, let us know in the comments down below. But other than that, thanks for watching.